Hi there. Welcome to or welcome back to Tiff Reads Books, where I read books and I talk to you about them. Do you remember how I said that I don't tend to buy a lot of books? And in a way, that's true because I could buy a lot more, especially considering how much I read. So I think what I mean is I don't buy a lot of the books that I read, which actually sounds a little backwards because I have read a lot of these ones that I've got here sitting on the table. But in the last 3 months, I have bought 22 books, which I'm going to show you. Most of them I have bought used, and some of them are gifts, and some of them are ones I have read before and just don't own. So I think I've got them in piles of how I want to talk about them. So first, let's talk about middle grade that I bought as gifts. So my best friend's daughter's turning 10 in a week, so I picked up a couple books for her today while I was out. And that's what kind of got me started on this. So I'm going to be moving in and out of this picture. So I'm going to try to finish talking here and then go grab the books. So middle grade. So I bought her When You Trap a Tiger, which this I believe is, according to Storygraph, this is like a 4.22 rating because I looked it up just to see if it was at least good before I bought it for her. And this is a retelling of a Korean myth. So I picked this up at Target today. It's got a couple of awards apparently, but it sounded like something I thought she would like. I don't remember the synopsis now. And then I bought The Wild Robot, and this is about a robot trying to survive in the wild. And this also has like a 4-star rating on Storygraph. So I thought I'd get this one. It sounded cute. And I guess it's got sequels. So hopefully this is the first, because I didn't think to check. Okay, so then I went to my thrift shop today and I picked up, this is a book about a young boy who wants to be a unicorn rider, although this is an alicorn on the cover, so I am annoyed. But it has really good ratings, and he's like turned 13, so now he has to go to his first hatching and see if he can bond, and it sounded really cute. So I grabbed it. You can see it was only $3, and the sequel, which is also only $3. So I figured that way, if she doesn't like them, she doesn't like them, and that's fine. They can redonate them. But I thought they sounded really cute. So, and she's reading books about this level right now. Let's continue with the thrift store. So I picked up today, just a nostalgic thing for me, a illustrated copy of The Black Stallion. This was one of my favorite books as a kid. I read this so many times. I read so many of the series. These are the books that, like, along with the Margaret Henry books, got me reading, and I remember this illustration from the copy that I read. So I had to pick it up. Because of nostalgia reasons. So yeah, The Black Stallion, illustrated. So then I picked up 2 other books that I have read. So I typically buy Stephen King like first editions when I find them, just because I like the hardbacks. This whole lower shelf down here is all Stephen King hardbacks that I've picked up at thrift stores. And so this is Lacey's Story, which has this cool like cutout on the front, because the Naked Book is this whole like world, and this is one of the first books I'd seen that had done this. And yeah, so I was excited. It has some staining, but I think after I cleaned up that Harrow book a while ago, I think I can clean this one up with a little bit of sandpaper. But yeah, this is a controversial take, but this is one of my favorite Stephen King books, and it's actually only a 3.5 star for me, but it's still one of my favorites. Like, being objective and giving it a rating based on, like, compared to his other books and stuff, and compared to other writers, it's a 3.5, but it's still, like, one of my favorites for the place that I was in when I read it and how I felt about it when I first read it. But on the reread, it was a 3.5, but I still felt that nostalgic connection to it, so it's still one of my favorites, even though I don't necessarily think it is one of his best. I love it for what it tried to do. So, Lacey's Story, which I also paid $3 for. And then, this is going to be weird because I was going to do all the Stephen King books. So, yeah, that's what we're going to do. We're going to do the Stephen King, and then I'll get to the last one I've got. So, these are half-price books buys. So, I got a first edition of The Wind Through the Keyhole, which is the Dark Tower 4.5, kind of. But I read it after because it came out way after. But this adds into my Dark Tower collection, which with the next 2 books I'm going to show you, completed this year. and I'm going to reread, because I've reread The Gunslinger 4 times, but I haven't reread the entire series. So we're going to reread the whole series, hopefully this year. I just haven't figured out when. I think that's going to be a summer thing. So I bought, at the same time, I bought Wizard and Glass, just a paperback cover. This is one of my favorites. Finding the hardback of this is going to be extremely difficult because it has an artist that is apparently fairly collectible, and the cover is actually really hard to find. But this is the illustrated paperback, and so that's like some of the illustrations, full color print illustrations. So I had to pick it up. It's a little dingy, but it just reminds me of the library copy I read being a little dingy, so I had to. Okay. And then my very last one was The Wastelands, a paperback copy, which is the same size as the other one at least, and also illustrated. So like full illustrations. And this horror artist is fascinating, some of the stuff he's done. So I had to pick this one up too, because how could I resist like a full color illustrated with double pages of like events from the book. So those are my Stephen King buys. Okay, so I guess we'll go into the sci-fi, because then I can finish up what I bought today at the thrift shop. So earlier this month, last month, I read my first Brandon Sanderson, and I read Skyward on audio, and then I just happened to find it today at the thrift store. So why not pick it up in hardback? And it's very pretty, and yeah, for $3. It's, again, there's a couple beat up pages, but I don't mind, so I picked that up. I bought a used copy of Congo at the very beginning of this year to read with my brother, so I'm still waiting on him to finish, but I have finished this, so I have opinions, and I will share them later. But I bought this used, obviously, it's a 1980s copy. And then I bought at Half Price Books again, Kaiju Preservation Society, which I plan on reading later this year, potentially with my brother, so maybe not for a little while, but who knows. And then for my next buddy read with my brother, I bought a copy for each of us of Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. This is a ghost ship, a salvage crew, and unspeakable horrors. This is a sci-fi horror thriller thing, and it sounded really interesting. The back is actually just full of blurbs, but it sounded interesting to both of us, so we are going to read this together, and it's fairly short. It's like 330 pages, so yeah, excited about that. So this is my one of my new books that I bought. Most everything else is used. Fantasy. Where to start? All right, so this year I want to read these two things, continuing with my like 1990s fantasy era that I can't claim, seem to currently be in. So again, Half Price Book stickers. So picked up used Game of Thrones. I have read this before, but it was in 2013, so it has been a while since I read this, and I didn't like it at the time, but I think now I'm more used to that style of writing, and I might be a little bit more confident in reading it and enjoy it a little bit more. Hopefully. Which also means hopefully with this one, because I did try to read this book. This is The Eye of the World. It's the first in the Wheel of Time series. I did try to read this back in 2004. I was obsessed with The Dark Tower, and somebody in my life, I don't remember who, was like, oh, if you really like The Dark Tower and you like fantasy, you might like this, so you should read this. And I honestly think it's just because he was obsessed with it, because this is nothing like that. This was nothing like that, except for maybe the fact that it's a battle of good and evil, I guess. But I remember getting maybe like 100 pages into it and feeling like Robert Jordan spent 5 pages describing the color of a blade of grass, and I noped out. I could not do it. I gave up. And that was like the first book that I remember being like, I'm not gonna read this. And it sat next to my bed for a long time, and my friend was finally like, are you gonna read that? And I was like, no. And he was like, I'm gonna take it home then. And I was like, yeah, you probably should. So we're gonna try it again. Me and my friend might buddy read this, but like, look at the size of this font. It's so tiny and it's so dense. This book is 814 pages. I think it looks like that was after some sort of appendix. This looks like an appendix. Is this an appendix? Okay, there is a glossary. So 782 pages for the book, and then the rest is glossary and author's notes. So, okay. Let's continue with another big book. Priory of the Orange Tree, which I've been wanting to read. But this is also on, the font is bigger and the margins are kind of big, so this might be okay. This is going to be one of my bestie suggestions. I'm planning to read, I think, 5 books this year that she suggests to me, so I better get started at some point soon. So this is one of them. This is one of her favorite books in the year that she read it, and she's been bugging me to read it ever since, but I was like, oh, it's already on my TBR, like totally planning on reading it. I've just been putting it off because she's thick. So 804 pages. And my last fantasy half-price books buy is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I don't know a whole lot about this one, but I know that it's often touted as like a fantastic grimdark fantasy, and I know it does get dark and grim. And that it is based on some sort of historical event. And I did like Babel a lot, so I did want to keep reading R.F. Kuang, so I wanted to try this one. I've heard really good things about the series, so we're gonna give this a go at some point soon too. Okay, a few more books. So continuing with fantasy, I bought this year, hold on, these. So I read Jade War, and I'm gonna put it back because I did read this one already. I did a buddy read in February, reading Jade City, and I really liked it, like really enjoyed it. So I bought Jade War, which I started reading, you can see, and Jade Legacy, so that I could just read them. So, go back there. So, yes, so I am currently reading those. The writing style in this one feels a little bit different so far. I'm only 40 pages in, but it feels a little more tell so far, and so I'm going a little slow with it because it just wasn't, I was exhausted and it was not keeping my attention. I did buy them used, you can see, crinkles. I did buy them used. So, those are the main things. Now, new releases. I bought 2 new releases this year. I am planning on reading this at some point soon. I've been really excited for it. What Feasts at Night is the sequel to What Moves the Dead, which I bought at the thrift store last year for $1. Even the original hardback, perfect condition. So excited. I love that thrift store. So I ordered this, I pre-ordered this one. And this has the pretty drawings, and the same artist, Christina Mrazek, I believe, is the artist for the cover of both books. And I just love this style of art a lot. So I'm very excited for this. You can tell I like bones. So I'm really excited about this one. I do plan on reading this very soon. I think I'm going to rearrange my TBR that I kind of planned out for myself this month and see if I can squeeze it in. But just look at them together real quick. Okay, so we've got the reverse, the red and the black and the black and the red. And like, I just love it. And then the very last one is I pre-ordered Grey Dog, which is a historical horror that's full of feminine rage. After I read The Ark, and I just fell in love with it. So I think this is only out in paperback, and this is published by an independent Canadian press. So I love it and I recommend it. And yeah, so that's all my stuff that I've got in the last 3 months. So this was 1 quarter. Last month was my birthday month, or this month, we're in March. This month was my birthday month, and I kind of went a little crazy at Half Price Books and bought myself kind of whatever I want. And so I did buy more than I probably normally would have because of that. And just because of those good finds today. So yeah, that's what I bought this month. Let me know which one of these you've read, if you've read any of them, and there's any you want me to read like right away. You're like, don't wait on that one. I know the Poppy War. Everyone's gonna tell me the Poppy War. I understand. I will get to it. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you soon. Look at this. It's honestly just, where's my finger? This one. It's just the drawing of the 3 that doesn't match up in height, so I guess I better buy a large drawing of the 3. Or I can just deal. But here is my Stephen King hardback shelf that I've mostly bought at the thrift store, except for Full Dark, No Stars, and Just After Sunset, which I bought new. And Dr. Sleep was a gift, and I lost the dust jacket. And then I've got a couple more up here